The fluorescent lights of Jefferson High School's administrative office buzzed overhead as 17-year-old Maya Chen sat rigidly in the uncomfortable plastic chair, her dark eyes fixed on the principal's nameplate. Dr. Margaret Thornfield had been pacing behind her desk for the better part of 20 minutes, occasionally stopping to wave a stack of papers in the air like evidence at a trial. Those papers contained Maya's latest English assignment, a creative writing piece that had apparently sent shockwaves through the entire faculty. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya's fingers drummed silently against her jeans as she recalled the assignment. Mrs. Patterson had asked the advanced placement English class to write a realistic short story incorporating themes of conflict and resolution. While her classmates had penned tales of teenage romance gone wrong or family disputes over college choices, Maya had crafted something entirely different. Her story, titled Operation Nightfall, detailed a covert military extraction mission in Eastern Europe, complete with tactical maneuvers, weapons specifications, and psychological profiles of enemy combatants. The level of detail was so precise, so authentic, that it read less like teenage fiction and more like an actual military briefing. Dr. Thornfield finally stopped pacing and slammed the papers down on her desk. Maya, in my 30 years as an educator, I have never encountered anything quite like this. The violence described in these pages, the knowledge of military tactics, the detailed descriptions of weaponry, this goes far beyond creative writing. This reads like a manual for domestic terrorism. Maya's jaw tightened. She had always been different from her peers, more mature, more aware of the world's darker realities. While other teenagers worried about prom dates and college applications, Maya found herself drawn to stories of international conflict, geopolitical tensions, and the shadowy world of intelligence operations. Her mother, Dr. Maya Chen, worked for the State Department, or so Maya had been told her entire life. The family moved frequently, living in different countries every few years, always for her mother's diplomatic work. Maya had grown up in embassy compounds, military bases, and secure residential areas that most civilians never even knew existed. Mrs. Thornfield, Maya began, her voice steady despite the accusations being hurled at her, it's just a story, fiction. Mrs. Patterson specifically asked us to make it realistic and incorporate detailed world building. Realistic? Dr. Thornfield picked up the papers again, flipping through them with visible disgust. You've described how to disable security systems using household items, the exact pressure points to incapacitate a human being, and tactical formations used by special operations forces. This isn't the kind of knowledge a 17-year-old should possess, let alone write about in such vivid detail. Maya knew she couldn't explain the truth, that she had absorbed this information from years of overhearing her mother's late-night phone calls, from living on military installations where such knowledge was commonplace. Her mother had always been secretive about her work, but Maya was observant. She noticed the way certain visitors to their home carried themselves, the way conversations stopped when she entered a room, the way her mother sometimes returned from conferences with barely concealed injuries and a haunted look in her eyes. I read a lot, she simply said. Military history, international relations, current events. I wanted my story to be authentic. Dr. Thornfield's expression softened slightly, but her concern remained evident. Maya, you're a brilliant student. Your grades are exemplary. Your teachers speak highly of your analytical abilities, and you've never been in any kind of trouble. But this, she gestured toward the papers, suggests exposure to extremely sensitive material that could pose a security risk if it fell into the wrong hands. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. Here she was, being accused of possessing dangerous knowledge, when in reality, she had probably been exposed to more classified information in casual dinner conversations than most people encountered in a lifetime. Her mother's work might officially be diplomatic, but Maya had long suspected there was more to the story. The encrypted phones that rang at all hours, the way her mother could disappear for weeks on end without explanation, the fact that they had lived in countries experiencing political upheaval just months before major international incidents occurred, it all painted a picture that went far beyond typical State Department activities. "I understand your concern," Maya replied carefully, "but I can assure you that everything in that story came from publicly available sources. Books, documentaries, news articles. I'm not involved in anything dangerous or illegal." Dr. Thornfield sighed heavily and sat down across from Maya. "I believe you, Maya. I truly do. But the school board doesn't share my confidence. They've seen your essay and they're demanding immediate action. The level of detail, the tactical accuracy, they're convinced you've had contact with individuals involved in military or intelligence operations. They want you suspended pending a full investigation." Maya's stomach dropped. A suspension would go on her permanent record, potentially affecting her college applications and scholarship opportunities. More concerning was the attention an investigation might bring to her family. Her mother had always stressed the importance of maintaining a low profile, of never drawing unnecessary attention to their activities or associations. "What kind of investigation?" Maya asked, though she dreaded the answer. "The school board has contacted the FBI," Dr. Thornfield admitted reluctantly. "They want to determine how a high school student acquired such detailed knowledge of military tactics and classified operational procedures. They're also concerned about potential security threats to the school and the broader community." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. A suspension would go on her permanent record, potentially affecting her college applications and scholarship opportunities. More concerning was the unwanted attention an investigation might bring to her family. The weight of the situation pressed down on Maya's shoulders as Dr. Thornfield continued explaining the school board's demands. A federal investigation into her family would be catastrophic. Maya's mind raced through the potential consequences, each scenario worse than the last. Her mother's diplomatic passport, their frequent relocations, the encrypted communications equipment she'd glimpsed in their home office, all of it would come under scrutiny. "When would this investigation begin?" Maya asked, fighting to keep her voice level. "The FBI has already been notified," Dr. Thornfield replied grimly. "Agent Rodriguez is expected to arrive this afternoon to begin preliminary interviews. Maya, I need you to understand the seriousness of the situation. If there's anything at all, that you haven't told me about how you acquired this knowledge, now would be the time to share it." Maya's thoughts turned to her mother, currently overseas on another one of her mysterious diplomatic missions. Dr. Maya Chen had left 3 days earlier for what she described as routine meetings with embassy personnel in Prague. But Maya had overheard enough phone conversations to know that Prague was merely a cover story. Her mother's real destination was likely somewhere in the volatile border regions of Eastern Europe, conducting business that had nothing to do with traditional diplomacy. "I've told you everything," Maya said, which was technically true. She couldn't explain what she didn't fully understand herself. Her knowledge came from a lifetime of careful observation, of picking up fragments of information from conversations she wasn't supposed to hear, from growing up in an environment where operational security and tactical awareness were part of daily life. Dr. Thornfield studied Maya's face intently. "Your mother works for the State Department, correct? Has she ever discussed her work with you? Brought home any materials that might contain sensitive information?" Maya shook her head. "My mom is very private about her work. She says it's mostly boring administrative stuff, visa processing, cultural exchange programs, routine diplomatic correspondence." The lie came easily after years of practice. Maya had learned early that the family's safety often depended on maintaining carefully constructed cover stories. And your father? He died when I was 7. Car accident in Morocco while we were stationed there. This was another half-truth. Maya's father indeed died in Morocco, but the circumstances were far more complex than a simple traffic accident. She had been too young to understand the details at the time, but she remembered the hushed conversations, the way her mother's colleagues from the embassy had handled all the arrangements, the speed with which they had been whisked away to a new posting immediately after the funeral. Dr. Thornfield's expression softened. "I'm sorry for your loss, Maya. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been, especially living overseas without extended family support." Maya nodded, though the sympathy felt hollow. Her father's death had been the moment she first understood that their family's life was different from other families. Normal families didn't have their loved ones die in classified circumstances. Normal families didn't get whisked away to new countries with new identities in the aftermath of tragedy. "The thing is," Dr. Thornfield continued, "the FBI agents reviewing your essay identified several details that aren't available in public sources. The specific tactical formations you described, the counter-surveillance techniques, the operational terminology. According to their experts, this information is found only in classified military manuals and intelligence training materials." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She had been careless, allowing too many authentic details to slip into her creative writing. Years of living on the periphery of the intelligence world had given her access to information she shouldn't possess, and she had unconsciously incorporated it into what was supposed to be a harmless school assignment. "Maybe I have a good imagination," Maya suggested, weakly, knowing how inadequate the explanation sounded. "Maya, Agent Rodriguez specializes in counterintelligence operations. He's dealt with cases involving the unauthorized disclosure of classified information, domestic terrorism, and foreign espionage. When someone with his expertise flags a high school essay as containing potentially classified material, the situation becomes very serious very quickly." The mention of counterintelligence sent a chill down Maya's spine. Counterintelligence operations are designed to identify and neutralize threats to national security. If Agent Rodriguez suspected that Maya or her family posed such a threat, they could find themselves under intensive investigation, potentially facing criminal charges. Maya's phone vibrated in her pocket, a text message from an unknown number. She glanced down discreetly and felt her blood freeze. The message contained only 4 words. "Package delivery delayed. Maintain cover." It was the kind of coded communication her mother occasionally received, always followed by extended absences and heightened security measures around their home. "Dr. Thornfield, I really think this is all a misunderstanding. Maybe I could rewrite the essay, choose a different topic that's less concerning." The principal shook her head sadly. "I'm afraid it's too late for that. The school board has already made their decision. You're suspended, effective immediately, pending the outcome of the FBI investigation. I've been instructed to escort you off campus and ensure you don't return until the matter is resolved." Maya felt the walls closing in around her. A suspension was bad enough, but the federal investigation threatened to expose everything her mother had worked to keep hidden. Maya knew that intelligence operatives lived double lives precisely because their real work couldn't withstand public scrutiny. If Agent Rodriguez dug too deep, he might uncover not just her mother's true employer, but potentially compromise active operations and endanger other operatives in the field. "Can I at least call my mom?" Maya asked desperately. "Of course, but she'll need to return immediately for questioning. The FBI wants to speak with both of you before this goes any further." Maya nodded, already dreading the conversation. Her mother was likely in the middle of a sensitive operation, possibly in danger, certainly unable to simply abandon her mission and return home to deal with her daughter's academic crisis. But Maya also knew that her mother would find a way. She always did. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she dialed her mother's number from Dr. Thornfield's office. The call went straight to voicemail, not unusual when her mother was overseas, but particularly frustrating given the circumstances. Maya left a carefully worded message, using phrases that would alert her mother to the seriousness of the situation without revealing too much over potentially monitored lines. "Mom, it's Maya. There's been an issue at school regarding my English assignment. The administration is very concerned about the content and has contacted federal authorities. They need you to return immediately for meetings. It's urgent." Dr. Thornfield watched Maya end the call with obvious concern. "How quickly can your mother return?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "Her diplomatic schedule can be complicated, especially when she's in meetings with foreign officials. She might not even get the message right away." This was partially true. Maya knew her mother maintained multiple communication channels, some more secure than others. The regular cell phone number was for routine family communications and maintaining their cover as a normal diplomatic family. The real emergency communications happened through different channels entirely: encrypted satellite phones, coded messages through seemingly innocent email accounts, and contact protocols that Maya only vaguely understood. "Maya," Dr. Thornfield said gently, "is there anyone else we can call? Other family members? Emergency contacts?" Maya shook her head. Their lifestyle had never allowed for close relationships with extended family. Maya's grandparents had been told that Sarah's diplomatic work required frequent relocations and limited communication for security reasons. They exchanged birthday cards and holiday calls, but nothing that would provide the kind of support Maya needed now. "There's Uncle James," Maya said after a moment, remembering her mother's brother who worked in international finance. "But he lives in Singapore, and I'm not sure how quickly he could get here." The truth was more complicated. Uncle James was indeed in Singapore, but his work in international finance was about as legitimate as her mother's diplomatic career. The Chen family seemed to have a talent for careers that required extensive travel, flexible schedules, and carefully managed public profiles. Dr. Thornfield made a note. "We'll need contact information for him as well. The FBI will want to interview any family members who might have relevant knowledge." Maya provided her uncle's information while mentally calculating time zones and wondering if he was currently accessible. The interconnected nature of her family's various cover operations meant that one person's exposure could potentially compromise multiple operations across different agencies and organizations. A knock on the office door interrupted Maya's thoughts. Dr. Thornfield's secretary peered in nervously. "Dr. Thornfield, Agent Rodriguez has arrived. He's requested to speak with you privately before interviewing the student." Maya's stomach lurched. The FBI agent was here, ready to begin an investigation that could unravel her entire family's carefully constructed life. She wondered what Agent Rodriguez looked like, what his background was, whether he was the type of investigator who would accept surface explanations or dig deeper until he uncovered the truth. "Maya," Dr. Thornfield said gently, "I need you to wait in the outer office while I speak with Agent Rodriguez. Please don't leave the administrative area." Maya nodded and gathered her backpack, trying to appear calmer than she felt. As she exited the principal's office, she caught a glimpse of a tall man in a dark suit speaking with the school security guard. Agent Rodriguez had the bearing of someone accustomed to authority, alert eyes that took in everything, a posture that suggested both professionalism and readiness for trouble. He looked exactly like the kind of federal agent who would be thorough, methodical, and very difficult to deceive. Maya settled into a chair in the outer office, trying to look like a typical teenager in trouble rather than someone whose family's livelihood depended on maintaining operational security. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through social media, but her mind was racing through possible scenarios. What if Agent Rodriguez had already begun investigating her family's background? What if he had identified inconsistencies in their cover story? What if this entire situation was part of a larger counterintelligence operation targeting her mother's actual employer? Mrs. Martinez, the secretary, looked at Maya sympathetically. "Honey, try not to worry too much. These things usually work themselves out." Maya managed a weak smile. "Thank you. I just hope my mom can get back quickly to clear everything up." But Maya knew that her mother's return might actually complicate things rather than resolve them. Dr. Sarah Chen was highly trained in maintaining cover identities and managing security situations, but she wasn't prepared for her teenage daughter to accidentally expose classified information in a high school English class. The intersection of Maya's normal adolescent life with her mother's covert professional activities had created a security breach that neither of them had anticipated. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time, the message was from a number she recognized, one of the emergency communication protocols her mother had established for true crisis situations. The message was brief. "Aware of situation. Handler notified. Maintain current position. Resolution incoming." Maya's eyes widened slightly. Her mother's handler, the person who managed her operations and assignments, had been informed about the situation. This meant that the problem had escalated beyond a simple family crisis. Maya's school suspension had now become a matter of national security, requiring intervention from whatever agency actually employed her mother. Maya deleted the message and tried to look like a normal teenager checking her social media rather than someone who had just received a coded communication from the intelligence community. In a few minutes, she would be face-to-face with Agent Rodriguez, trying to explain knowledge she wasn't supposed to have while protecting secrets she didn't fully understand. The office door opened, and Dr. Thornfield emerged with Agent Rodriguez. The FBI agent's eyes immediately found Maya, assessing her with the practiced gaze of someone trained to evaluate potential security threats. Maya took a deep breath and prepared to undergo the most important performance of her young life. Agent Miguel Rodriguez was not what Maya had expected. Despite his imposing presence in the hallway, up close, he appeared younger than she had imagined, perhaps in his mid-30s, with intelligent brown eyes and an unexpectedly gentle demeanor. He extended his hand to Maya with a slight smile that seemed genuine rather than calculated. "Maya Chen, I'm Agent Rodriguez with the FBI. I understand you're at the center of quite a mystery today." Maya shook his hand, noting the firmness of his grip and the calluses that suggested regular weapons training. "I wouldn't call it a mystery, sir. I think it's just a misunderstanding." Agent Rodriguez gestured toward Dr. Thornfield's office. "I'd like to discuss that with you, if you don't mind. Dr. Thornfield has kindly offered us her office for privacy." As they settled into the office, Agent Rodriguez pulled out a tablet and what appeared to be a digital recording device. "Maya, before we begin, I want you to understand this is an informal interview. You're not under arrest, you're not in legal trouble, and you have the right to have a parent or guardian present. However, given the nature of the material in your essay, we do need to understand how you acquired certain information." Maya nodded, choosing her words carefully. "I understand, Agent Rodriguez. I want to cooperate fully." "Excellent." He activated the recording device. "Let's start with some basic background. You're 17 years old, currently a senior at Jefferson High School. Your mother works for the State Department, and you've lived in several countries throughout your childhood. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir." Maya's training in maintaining cover stories kicked in automatically. "My mother is a diplomatic attaché specializing in cultural exchange programs. We've lived in Morocco, Germany, South Korea, and the Philippines before moving here 3 years ago." Agent Rodriguez made notes on his tablet. That's quite extensive international exposure for someone your age. Tell me about your interest in military subjects. When did you first become interested in tactical operations and military strategy? Maya had anticipated this question. I've always been interested in international relations and current events. Growing up overseas, you see how conflicts affect regular people. I started reading military history and strategy books to better understand the situations we encountered in different countries. Can you give me some examples of these books? Maya rattled off a list of legitimate military history texts and strategy guides, books that any interested student could access through libraries or bookstores. What she didn't mention were the classified briefing documents she had accidentally seen, the operational reports left open on her mother's laptop, or the conversations between intelligence personnel she had overheard during diplomatic receptions. Agent Rodriguez nodded appreciatively. Impressive reading list for a teenager. Now, let's talk about your essay specifically. Operation Nightfall contains several elements that concern our analysts. The tactical formations you described, for instance, the diamond approach with alternating cover positions. Where did you encounter this specific formation? Maya's heart rate increased. The diamond formation was something she had overheard her mother discussing during a secure video conference with other operatives. She had been doing homework in the adjacent room and heard the conversation through the thin walls of their temporary housing in Seoul. I believe I read about it in a book about Special Forces tactics, she said carefully. I try to research thoroughly for my creative writing to make the stories realistic. Which book specifically? Maya named a popular military thriller series, hoping Agent Rodriguez wouldn't press for more details. I read extensively in the genre. Sometimes details from different sources blend together in my mind. Agent Rodriguez studied her face intently. Maya had learned from watching her mother that the key to successful deception was to stay as close to the truth as possible while omitting the incriminating details. Her interest in military subjects was genuine. Her research was real, even if it came from unconventional sources. Maya, I'm going to be direct with you, Agent Rodriguez said, leaning forward slightly. Several details in your essay match classified tactical procedures used by U.S. Special Operations Forces. The counter-surveillance techniques, the specific terminology, the operational security protocols, these aren't found in civilian publications or popular fiction. Maya forced herself to maintain eye contact. I'm sorry if I accidentally included inaccurate information. I was trying to make the story exciting and realistic, but I certainly never had access to any classified materials. I don't think the information is inaccurate. I think it's extremely accurate. That's what concerns us. The silence stretched between them as Maya tried to formulate a response that wouldn't further incriminate her family. Agent Rodriguez seemed to be waiting for her to fill the silence, a classic interrogation technique that Maya recognized from television shows, but had never experienced firsthand. Agent Rodriguez, Maya said finally, I understand your concerns, but I can only tell you what I know. I'm interested in military subjects, I read extensively about international conflicts, and I tried to write a realistic story for my English class. If I accidentally included details that seemed too realistic, it was unintentional. Agent Rodriguez made more notes, then looked up at Maya with what appeared to be genuine curiosity. Your mother is currently overseas, correct? When is she expected to return? I left her a voicemail, but I'm not sure when she'll get it or when she can return. Her diplomatic schedule can be complicated. What kind of diplomatic work does she do specifically? Maya repeated the cover story she had memorized years earlier. Cultural exchange programs, visa processing, liaison work with international educational institutions. She coordinates student exchanges and cultural programs between the U.S. and host countries. Agent Rodriguez nodded, but Maya caught a subtle change in his expression, a slight tightening around his eyes that suggested he wasn't entirely convinced by her explanation. Maya, has your mother ever brought work materials home? Documents, files, communication equipment? Just her laptop and phone, like any professional, but she's very security conscious about her work. She always locks her computer and doesn't discuss sensitive matters around me.
This was technically true, though Maya's definition of sensitive matters was probably different from Agent Rodriguez's. Her mother was indeed careful about operational security, but 17 years of living in the same households had provided Maya with numerous opportunities to observe and overhear things she wasn't supposed to know. Agent Rodriguez stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the school parking lot. "Maya, I'm going to share something with you that might help you understand the seriousness of this situation. 3 months ago, we arrested a group of individuals who were planning a terrorist attack on a federal building. The tactical approach they had planned was nearly identical to the one you described in your essay." Maya's blood ran cold. "I had no idea. I would never write anything that could help criminals." "I believe you," Agent Rodriguez said, turning back to face her. "But you can understand why we need to determine how this information reached you. The similarities aren't coincidental. They're too specific, too accurate." Maya struggled to process this information. Her creative writing assignment had accidentally mirrored an actual terrorist plot. The implications were staggering. If Agent Rodriguez believed she had somehow been connected to the terrorist group, both she and her mother could face serious criminal charges.
Agent Rodriguez returned to his seat across from Maya, his expression more serious than before. The revelation about the terrorist plot had shifted the entire tone of the interview from routine investigation to potential national security threat. Maya tried to process the implications while maintaining her composure. "Maya, I need you to think very carefully about your answer to my next question," Agent Rodriguez said, his voice carrying a weight that made Maya's stomach clench. "Have you ever been in contact with anyone who might be involved in anti-government activities, terrorist organizations, or foreign intelligence operations?" The irony of the question wasn't lost on Maya. Her mother was almost certainly involved in foreign intelligence operations just on the American side rather than against it. But how could she explain that without exposing her mother's true career? "No, sir," Maya replied firmly. "I've never been involved with anything like that. I'm a high school student who reads too much and has an overactive imagination." Agent Rodriguez consulted his tablet, scrolling through what appeared to be additional notes or files. "Your family has lived in several countries that have experienced significant political instability. Morocco during the Arab Spring aftermath, South Korea during escalated tensions with the North, the Philippines during counter-terrorism operations against Abu Sayyaf. That's quite a pattern of being in sensitive locations during volatile periods." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Agent Rodriguez was clearly more than a routine FBI investigator. He had access to detailed information about international political situations and her family's travel patterns. This level of analysis suggested either counterintelligence expertise or cooperation with other intelligence agencies. "My mother's work takes her to challenging locations," Maya said carefully. "The State Department often sends diplomats to areas where American interests need protection or advancement. It's part of the job." "Indeed it is," Agent Rodriguez agreed, but his tone suggested he wasn't entirely satisfied with the explanation. "Maya, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to consider your answer carefully. Is there any possibility that your mother's work involves more than routine diplomatic activities?" Maya's heart hammered against her ribcage. Agent Rodriguez was probing directly at the truth, testing whether she would maintain the cover story or reveal what she suspected about her mother's real career. This was the moment Maya had been dreading, the point where maintaining her family's security might require outright lies to a federal agent. "My mother has always been very professional about maintaining the confidentiality of her work," Maya said slowly, "but she's never given me any reason to believe she's involved in anything other than legitimate diplomatic activities." Agent Rodriguez leaned back in his chair, studying Maya's face. "You're very articulate for someone in your situation, Maya. Most teenagers would be more emotional when facing this kind of questioning." Maya realized she had been too controlled, too professional in her responses. A normal 17-year-old would indeed be more frightened, more confused, less capable of maintaining consistent answers under pressure. Her composure was actually making her seem more suspicious rather than less. "I'm scared," she admitted, allowing some genuine emotion to enter her voice. "I'm scared that I've somehow gotten my family in trouble over a stupid homework assignment. I'm scared that people might think we're involved in something dangerous when we're not." This response seemed to satisfy Agent Rodriguez somewhat. He made additional notes, then looked up at Maya with what might have been sympathy. "Maya, I'm going to be honest with you. The information in your essay is so specific, so accurate, that our analysts believe it could only have come from someone with direct access to classified operational materials. This puts us in a difficult position, because if that's true, then someone in your family has violated federal law." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes, partly from stress, partly from the genuine fear that her mother's career and possibly her freedom were at stake. "Agent Rodriguez, I swear to you that I've never seen any classified documents. I would never do anything to hurt my country or endanger anyone." "I believe you wouldn't intentionally cause harm," Agent Rodriguez said gently, "but intention and impact aren't always the same thing. Sometimes people get caught up in situations beyond their understanding." Before Maya could respond, Agent Rodriguez's phone buzzed with an incoming call. He glanced at the display, and Maya noticed his expression change subtly, surprise mixed with what might have been concern. "Excuse me for just a moment," he said, answering the call. "Rodriguez here." Maya could only hear Agent Rodriguez's side of the conversation, but what she heard made her blood run cold. "Yes, sir. I'm interviewing the student now." "No, the mother has not returned yet." "I understand the sensitivity." "Yes, I'm aware of the operational implications. How long ago was this classified?" "I see. Yes, sir. I will wait for further instructions." Agent Rodriguez ended the call and looked at Maya with an entirely different expression, one that combined wariness with something that might have been recognition. "Maya, that was my supervisor. It seems your situation has become more complicated than we initially thought." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, though part of her already suspected what was coming. "We have received a call from someone claiming to be your mother's handler, someone who wants to discuss your case directly with our counterintelligence division." Maya's world shifted on its axis. Her mother's handler, the person who managed CIA operations, had directly contacted the FBI about her case. This meant that her school suspension had just escalated into a matter involving multiple intelligence agencies and potentially active operations. "I don't understand," Maya said weakly, though she understood all too well. Agent Rodriguez stood up and began pacing, much as Dr. Thornfield had done earlier. "Maya, I think it's time for you to be completely honest with me about your mother's real career, because either you're the most unlucky teenager in America, or you're part of something much larger than a high school English assignment gone wrong." Maya stared at Agent Rodriguez, realizing that her carefully maintained cover story was about to crumble entirely. Her mother's handler calling the FBI meant that operational security had been compromised and damage control measures were being implemented. Maya was no longer just a student in trouble. She was now a liability in active intelligence operations. "Agent Rodriguez," Maya said quietly, "I think I need to call my uncle in Singapore." "I think," Agent Rodriguez replied, "that won't be necessary. I have a feeling your family situation is about to be resolved by people with much higher clearance levels than mine."
The tension in Dr. Thornfield's office was palpable as Maya and Agent Rodriguez waited for whatever was about to unfold. Maya's mind raced through the implications of her mother's handler contacting the FBI directly. Such a move would only be made if the situation posed a significant threat to active operations, or if Maya's case had intersected with matters of national security in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. Agent Rodriguez had become noticeably more guarded since receiving the phone call from his supervisor. He kept checking his watch and glancing toward the door, clearly expecting additional personnel to arrive. Maya noticed that he had subtly shifted his position to maintain clear sightlines to both the office entrance and the windows, a tactical awareness that suggested he viewed the situation as potentially volatile. "Maya," Agent Rodriguez said after several minutes of uncomfortable silence, "while we're waiting for this to be resolved, I want you to understand something important. If your mother is indeed involved in classified activities on behalf of the United States government, there are protocols for protecting both operational security and family members. No one wants to see you or your mother harmed by this situation. Maya nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced. She had grown up in a world where operational security often trumped personal considerations. Intelligence agencies were known for making difficult decisions when operations were threatened, and Maya wasn't naive enough to believe that family relationships always took precedence over national security interests. A soft knock on the door interrupted Maya's thoughts. Dr. Thornfield entered, followed by a woman Maya didn't recognize. Tall, professionally dressed, with the same alert demeanor that Maya had learned to associate with intelligence personnel. "Agent Rodriguez," the woman said, extending her hand. "I'm Deputy Director Patricia Hawkins, CIA. I understand we have a situation that requires interagency coordination." Maya's eyes widened. The CIA had sent a deputy director to deal with her high school English assignment? This was far beyond anything she had imagined possible. The presence of such a high-ranking official meant that her case had implications she couldn't even guess at. Agent Rodriguez stood and shook Deputy Director Hawkins' hand. "Deputy Director, thank you for coming so quickly. We were just discussing the source of classified information that appeared in Miss Chen's creative writing assignment." Deputy Director Hawkins turned her attention to Maya, her expression neither hostile nor friendly, purely professional. "Maya Chen, I presume. I understand you've written quite an interesting story." "Yes, ma'am," Maya replied, unsure of the appropriate protocol for addressing CIA officials. "Maya, I'm going to be direct with you because the situation requires immediate resolution. Your mother, Dr. Sarah Chen, is indeed a CIA operative specializing in international intelligence operations. Her cover as a State Department diplomatic attaché has been maintained for operational security purposes, but given the current circumstances, that cover is no longer viable." Maya felt a strange mixture of relief and fear. Relief that the truth was finally out in the open, fear about what this revelation meant for her family's future. "Your essay," Deputy Director Hawkins continued, "contains tactical information from a classified operation that your mother participated in 18 months ago in Eastern Europe. The level of detail suggests that you overheard or observed operational briefings that were conducted in your family home." Maya nodded slowly. "There was a video conference. I was doing homework in the next room and the walls were thin. I heard people discussing tactics and formations, but I didn't realize it was classified information. The specific formation you described, the diamond approach with alternating cover positions, was used in a highly sensitive extraction operation. The success of that operation prevented a significant terrorist attack on NATO facilities. The tactical details have never been publicly disclosed." Agent Rodriguez interjected. "Deputy Director, we identified similarities between Maya's essay and the tactical approach planned by the terrorist cell we arrested 3 months ago. Could there be a connection?" Deputy Director Hawkins' expression grew more serious. "Agent Rodriguez, the terrorist cell you arrested was attempting to reverse engineer the tactical approach from intercepted communications. They had partial information about our operational methods, which is why their planned attack bore similarities to both Maya's essay and our actual operations." Maya felt her stomach drop. "Are you saying that my essay could somehow help terrorists?" "No, Maya," Deputy Director Hawkins assured her. "You're saying that your essay demonstrates how easily classified information can be inadvertently disclosed, even by family members with no malicious intent. This is precisely why intelligence personnel are required to maintain strict operational security protocols." Dr. Thornfield, who had been listening to this exchange with obvious bewilderment, finally spoke up. "Excuse me, but what does this mean for Maya's academic standing? The school board is demanding her suspension pending FBI investigation."
Deputy Director Hawkins and Agent Rodriguez exchanged glances. Dr. Thornfield, Deputy Director Hawkins said diplomatically, Maya's case is now classified under national security provisions. The FBI investigation will be concluded with a finding that no security breach occurred and no further action is warranted. Maya will return to her regular academic schedule tomorrow. Maya stared at the CIA official in disbelief. That's it? The whole thing just goes away? Not exactly, Deputy Director Hawkins replied. Maya, your family's cover has been compromised. Your mother's current operational assignment will need to be concluded, and she'll be reassigned to duties that don't require deep cover identity maintenance. This will likely mean significant changes to your family's lifestyle. Maya processed this information slowly. No more mysterious overseas postings, no more carefully maintained cover stories, no more living on the periphery of the intelligence world. It should have felt like a relief, but instead it felt like the end of the only life she had ever known. When will my mom be back? Maya asked. Dr. Chen has already been extracted from her current assignment. She should be returning to the United States within the next 48 hours. She'll be debriefed, reassigned, and then reunited with you. Agent Rodriguez gathered his materials and stood up. Maya, I want to apologize for the stress this investigation has caused you. You handled yourself very professionally throughout this process. Maya managed a weak smile. Thank you, Agent Rodriguez. I'm sorry my homework assignment caused so much trouble. Maya, Deputy Director Hawkins said as she prepared to leave, your mother should be proud of you. You maintained operational security under difficult circumstances, even when you didn't fully understand what was at stake. As the CIA official and FBI agent left the office, Maya was left alone with Dr. Thornfield, who looked as bewildered as Maya felt. Well, Dr. Thornfield said finally, I think it's safe to say this is the most unusual disciplinary case I've ever handled. Maya laughed, the first genuine expression of humor she had felt all day. Dr. Thornfield, you have no idea.
2 days later, Maya sat in the living room of their modest suburban home, staring at the front door and checking her phone every few minutes. Deputy Director Hawkins had promised that her mother would return within 48 hours, but Maya's anxiety increased with each passing moment. The house felt different now that she knew the truth about her mother's career. Every piece of furniture, every carefully chosen decoration, every security feature suddenly seemed like part of an elaborate stage set designed to maintain their cover. Maya had returned to school the previous day to find that her English teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had been instructed to give her full credit for her Operation Nightfall essay with no questions asked. Her classmates had been told that the suspension was due to a family emergency that had been resolved. No one seemed particularly interested in the details, which Maya found both relieving and oddly disappointing. After living through what felt like a major international incident, returning to discussions of college applications and prom themes felt surreal. The sound of a car door slamming in the driveway sent Maya rushing to the window. A black sedan with government plates had pulled up, and Maya watched as a figure emerged from the passenger side. A woman with short black hair, wearing civilian clothes, but carrying herself with the unmistakable bearing of someone accustomed to dangerous situations. Maya's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother, but she looked different somehow. Older, more tired, with lines around her eyes that hadn't been there when she left for Prague a week earlier. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the driveway for a moment, looking up at the house as if seeing it for the first time, then gathered her travel bag and walked toward the front door. Maya opened the door before her mother could use her key. They stared at each other for a long moment, both unsure how to navigate this new reality where secrets no longer existed between them. "Hello, Maya," Dr. Chen said quietly. "I understand we need to talk." Maya nodded, stepping aside to let her mother enter. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I never meant to cause problems with your work." Dr. Chen set down her bag and pulled Maya into a tight hug, the kind of fierce, protective embrace that Maya remembered from childhood moments of crisis. "Sweetheart, you have nothing to apologize for. If anything, I owe you an apology for putting you in a situation where you could accidentally compromise operational security." They moved to the living room, settling into the familiar chairs where they had shared countless conversations about school, friends, and Maya's college plans. But this conversation would be unlike any they had ever had. "Maya, how much did you figure out over the years? Dr. Chen asked gently. Maya considered the question carefully. I knew your work wasn't really diplomatic. The places we lived, the people who visited our house, the equipment you sometimes brought home, it all pointed to something in intelligence. I assumed CIA or NSA, but I wasn't sure. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. You were always observant. Too observant, perhaps. I should have been more careful about maintaining operational security at home. Mom, what happens now? Deputy Director Hawkins said your cover was blown and you'd be reassigned. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the window at their suburban neighborhood. A neighborhood that had never really been home, just another temporary posting in a career built on temporary identities. I've been reassigned to analytical work at Langley, her mother said finally. No more field operations, no more deep cover assignments. We'll be staying here permanently, or at least until you graduate and go to college. Maya felt a complex mixture of emotions. Relief that her mother would be safer, sadness that their adventurous international lifestyle was ending, and uncertainty about what normal family life would look like. Are you disappointed about having to give up field work? Maya asked. Dr. Chen smiled, the first genuine smile Maya had seen from her since her return to Prague. Honestly, I'm relieved. I've been doing this work for 20 years, Maya. I've missed too many school plays, birthday parties, and normal mother-daughter experiences because I was maintaining some cover identity in a foreign country. Maybe it's time for me to learn how to be just your mom, instead of a CIA operative who happens to have a daughter. Will you miss the excitement, the international travel? I'll miss the sense of purpose, the feeling that I was making a difference in protecting our country. But Maya, you're 17 years old. In 1 year, you'll be leaving for college and starting your own adult life. I want to be present for this last year we have together. Maya leaned back in her chair, processing this new reality. Mom, can I ask you about Dad? About what really happened in Morocco? Dr. Chen's expression grew somber. Your father wasn't just killed in a car accident, Maya. He was eliminated by hostile intelligence operatives who had discovered his true identity. He was CIA too, working undercover as an international business consultant. Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet again. Both of you were operatives? We met during training at Camp Perry, fell in love, and requested joint assignments so we could work together while raising you. For the first 7 years of your life, we were a family of intelligence operatives, although you were obviously too young to understand what that meant. Maya tried to process this revelation. Her father hadn't just been a casualty of their lifestyle, he had been an active participant in the same dangerous world that had shaped her entire childhood. After your father's death, Dr. Chen continued, I was given the choice to leave the agency or continue with solo assignments. I chose to continue, partly because I wanted to honor his sacrifice, partly because intelligence work was all I really knew how to do. But I always wondered if I was being selfish, dragging you around the world to maintain my career. You weren't being selfish, Mom, Maya said firmly. You were protecting our country and keeping other families safe. I'm proud of what you did, even if it meant our life was complicated. Dr. Chen reached over and took Maya's hand. Maya, I want you to know that everything I did, every risk I took, was worth it because it meant building a safer world for you to grow up in. But I also want you to know that you have choices I never had. You can live a normal life, go to college, pursue any career you want without worrying about operational security or cover identities. Maybe, said Maya, but Mom, I want to finish high school first. I want to have a normal senior year with a mom who doesn't have to pretend to be someone else. Dr. Chen smiled again, and Maya noticed that some of the exhaustion in her mother's eyes had been replaced by something that looked like hope. I think I'd like that too, sweetheart. I think I'd like that very much. 3 weeks after her mother's return, Maya was beginning to understand what normal family life looked like, and she found it both wonderful and strange. Dr. Chen had embraced her new role with the same intensity she had once brought to intelligence operations. But channeling that energy into domestic activities produced some amusing results.
Maya came home from school to find her mother reorganizing the kitchen with military precision, labeling containers and creating elaborate inventory systems for pantry items. The refrigerator now contained a color-coded chart tracking expiration dates and nutritional content. It was simultaneously helpful and slightly overwhelming. "Mom," Maya said, dropping her backpack by the kitchen counter, "this looks like you're planning a covert operation to invade the grocery store." Dr. Chen laughed, holding up a label maker. "Old habits die hard, I guess, but at least now my organizational skills are being used to make sure you eat balanced meals instead of track enemy agent movements." Maya grabbed an apple from the precisely arranged fruit bowl. "How was your first week at Langley?" "Interesting," Dr. Chen replied, settling into what had become their routine of after-school conversations. "Analytical work is very different from field operations. Less adrenaline, more spreadsheets. But I'm working on some fascinating cases involving cyber terrorism and international financial crimes." "Do you miss the excitement?" Dr. Chen considered the question while putting away the label maker. "I miss the sense of immediate purpose, the feeling that every decision could have life or death consequences. But Maya, I don't miss the constant stress, the isolation from normal human connections, or the fear that my next assignment might be my last." Maya nodded, understanding more than she had before about the sacrifices her mother had made. "Mom, can I ask you something personal?" "Everything's personal now, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" "Did you ever consider getting remarried? I mean, after Dad died, did you ever want to share your life with someone?" Dr. Chen paused in her kitchen organization, her expression growing thoughtful. "I thought about it sometimes, especially when you were younger and I thought you might benefit from having a father figure. But intelligence work makes intimate relationships incredibly difficult. How do you build trust with someone when you can't tell them the truth about your career, your travels, your daily activities?" Maya had never considered this aspect of her mother's sacrifices. "That sounds lonely." "It was lonely," Dr. Chen admitted. "But I had you, and I had my work, and I told myself that was enough. Now, though," she trailed off, looking slightly embarrassed. "Now what?" "Now, I'm wondering what it might be like to date someone without having to maintain a cover story," Dr. Chen said with a small smile. "It's terrifying and exciting at the same time." Maya grinned. "Mom, are you telling me you want to start dating?" "I'm telling you that for the first time in 20 years, I could consider it without worrying about operational security. Though I have to admit, I have no idea how normal people meet each other. My social skills are a bit rusty." "Well, there's online dating," Maya suggested teasingly, "though your profile might be interesting. Recently retired international consultant seeks relationship based on honesty and trust, experience with high-stress situations, and excellent crisis management skills." Dr. Chen laughed harder than she had in weeks. "Maybe I should mention my extensive knowledge of foreign languages and combat training. That should attract the right kind of person." Their conversation was interrupted by the doorbell. Maya went to answer it, surprised to find Mrs. Patterson, her English teacher, standing on their front porch with what appeared to be a small gift bag. "Maya, I hope I'm not intruding. I wanted to stop by and check on you after all that excitement a few weeks ago." Maya invited Mrs. Patterson in, introducing her to Dr. Chen, who had quickly composed herself into perfect suburban mother mode. "Mrs. Patterson, it's so nice to meet you. Maya speaks about your class constantly. She's very passionate about writing." "Maya is one of my most talented students. Her creative writing shows remarkable maturity and attention to detail. Though that last assignment certainly generated some unexpected attention from the school administration." Maya and her mother exchanged glances. "Yes, well, Maya has always had a vivid imagination," Dr. Chen said diplomatically. Mrs. Patterson handed Maya the gift bag. I brought you something. A collection of short stories by authors who write about international settings and complex political situations. I thought you might enjoy them, given your interest in those themes. Maya opened the bag to find several books by authors like John Le Carré, Graham Greene, and Helen McGinnis, writers known for their realistic portrayals of espionage and international intrigue. Thank you so much, Mrs. Patterson. These look fascinating. Maya, Mrs. Patterson said, I wanted to ask you about your plans for next year. Have you considered applying to colleges with strong international relations programs? With your writing ability and your interest in global affairs, you could have a very successful career in journalism, diplomacy, or international business. Dr. Chen smiled at this suggestion. Maya has been exploring various options. We want to make sure she chooses a path that will challenge her intellectually while allowing her to make a positive impact. After Mrs. Patterson left, Maya and her mother returned to the kitchen to continue their conversation. She has no idea how accurate her career suggestions are, Maya observed, flipping through one of the books. Maya, I want you to know that whatever career you choose, whatever path you take, I'll support you completely. If you want to pursue intelligence work, I can provide guidance and connections. If you want to do something completely different, that's wonderful too. Actually, I've been thinking about Mrs. Patterson's suggestions. What if I studied international relations and journalism? I could write about global conflicts, investigate corruption, expose injustices, use words as weapons for positive change. Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with pride. Maya, that's a brilliant idea. You could have all the international exposure and meaningful impact of intelligence work, but with the freedom to operate in the open, to put your name on your work. Maya nodded enthusiastically. And I could use everything I learned growing up in your world, the cultural knowledge, language skills, understanding of how international politics really work, to become a better journalist. Plus, Dr. Chen added with a grin, journalists don't usually have to worry about their daughters accidentally compromising national security through creative writing assignments. Maya laughed harder than she had in weeks. Though knowing our family, I'd probably end up investigating stories that somehow connect to your old cases. Maya, Dr. Chen said, growing serious again, I want you to promise me something. Whatever career you choose, whatever path you take, never forget that your safety and happiness are more important than any mission, any story, any cause. I spent too many years prioritizing duty over family. Don't make the same mistake. Maya reached over and hugged her mother. I promise, Mom, but I also promise that I won't waste the incredible education I got growing up as your daughter. Everything I learned from watching you, courage, dedication, the importance of fighting for something bigger than yourself, I'm going to use those lessons to make a difference. Dr. Chen held her daughter tightly, finally understanding that her sacrifices had created something beautiful. Not just a young woman prepared to navigate a complex world, but someone determined to make that world better.
6 months later, Maya stood in the hallway of Jefferson High School looking at the college acceptance letters taped inside her locker. Georgetown's School of Foreign Service, Columbia's Graduate School of Journalism, and Northwestern's Medill School had all offered her places in their programs. The decision that had once seemed impossible was becoming clearer with each passing day. Her mother had kept her promise about being present for Maya's senior year. Dr. Chen attended parent-teacher conferences, chaperoned school dances, and even volunteered for the spring drama production, activities that would have been unthinkable during her operational years. Watching her mother navigate suburban parent culture with the same strategic thinking she had once applied to international crises was both endearing and hilarious. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Agent Rodriguez. Saw your acceptance to Georgetown on the news. Congratulations. The agency always needs good analysts with international experience. Maya smiled at the message. She had stayed in occasional contact with Agent Rodriguez, who had become something of a mentor as she explored career options in international affairs and journalism. He had introduced her to several CIA analysts who worked in areas that intersected with journalism and public policy, helping her understand how intelligence work had evolved beyond the deep cover operations her parents had performed. "Maya Chen, please report to the main office," came the announcement over the school's PA system. Maya gathered her books and headed toward the administrative building, wondering if she was in trouble again. But instead of finding Dr. Thornfield with a concerned expression, she discovered her mother waiting in the outer office with a huge smile and what appeared to be champagne. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Maya, I have incredible news," Dr. Chen said, practically bouncing with excitement. "The Washington Post just offered you their summer internship program for high school journalists. They want you to work in their international bureau." Maya stared at her mother in disbelief. "The Washington Post? But I never applied for an internship there." "Mrs. Patterson submitted your portfolio without telling you," Dr. Chen explained. "Apparently, she sent them several of your essays from this year along with that infamous military story that caused all the trouble. The international editor was so impressed that they created a special internship position just for you." Dr. Thornfield emerged from her office, beaming with pride. "Maya, this is extraordinary news. In 30 years of education, I've never had a student receive this kind of recognition from a major newspaper." Maya felt overwhelmed by the sudden opportunity. "But Mom, what about operational security? Won't working for a newspaper attract attention to our family?" Dr. Chen laughed. "Sweetheart, our cover was blown months ago. The intelligence community already knows who we are, but more importantly, you're not me. You're your own person, free to pursue your own career without worrying about maintaining someone else's secrets." Maya hugged her mother tightly. "This is amazing. I can't believe this is really happening." "Maya," Dr. Chen said, "there's more. The Post wants you to spend the summer working on a series about children of intelligence operatives, how growing up in that world shapes their perspectives on international affairs and national security. They think your unique background gives you insights that most journalists lack." Maya's mind raced with the possibilities. "I could interview other kids who grew up like I did, explore how intelligence work affects families, maybe even write about the sacrifices made by people who serve in classified roles." "Exactly," Dr. Chen said. "Your personal experience with operational security, international living, and the intersection of family life with national security work gives you a perspective that can't be taught in journalism school." Dr. Thornfield interrupted their celebration with a practical question. "Maya, what about college? Have you decided which program you want to accept?" Maya had been agonizing over this decision for weeks, but suddenly the answer seemed obvious. "Georgetown School of Foreign Service. I want to study international relations and journalism, and Georgetown will give me access to both fields while keeping me close to Washington's political and media communities." Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. "Georgetown has an excellent reputation, and the location will allow you to maintain connections with people from your internship. Plus," Maya added with a grin, "if I'm going to write about intelligence work and international affairs, I should probably understand how Washington actually works." Dr. Thornfield made a note in Maya's file. "I'll help you finalize the acceptance paperwork this afternoon." Maya, I have to say, watching your journey from that difficult situation with your essay to this incredible opportunity has been remarkable. You've shown tremendous maturity and resilience. After Dr. Thornfield returned to her office, Maya and her mother walked toward the parking lot, still talking excitedly about the internship opportunity. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Maya said as they reached their car. "Of course." "Are you ever regret the choices you made, the career path you took, the sacrifices you made for your work?" Dr. Chen stopped walking and turned to face her daughter directly. "Maya, I regret that my choices sometimes put you in difficult or dangerous situations. I regret the years we spent living with secrets between us. I regret that your father didn't live to see the incredible young woman you've become." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. "But," Dr. Chen continued, "I don't regret the work itself. The missions I completed, the intelligence I gathered, the operations I supported, they prevented terrorist attacks, protected American citizens, and helped maintain international stability.
That work had meaning and purpose. And now? Now I get to watch you build on everything you learned from growing up in that world, but without the restrictions and dangers that shaped my career. You get to use your knowledge and experience to inform the public, to shine light on important issues, to hold powerful people accountable for their actions. Maya smiled through her tears. So, I get to be the transparent version of what you did in secret? Exactly, Dr. Chen said, pulling her daughter into another fierce hug. You get to fight for truth and justice with your name on the byline, and I get to be the proud mother who cheers from the sidelines. As they drove home together, Maya reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought them to this point. A creative writing assignment that had seemed like a disaster 6 months earlier had ultimately opened doors she never could have imagined. Her accidental exposure of classified information had forced her family to confront truths they had been avoiding, but it had also freed them to build an honest relationship based on mutual respect and shared values. Maya Chen was ready to take on the world, armed with the wisdom of someone who had grown up watching heroes work in the shadows, and the freedom to pursue her own heroic path in the light.
The Washington Post newsroom was everything Maya had imagined and nothing like she had expected. The constant hum of activity, the maze of cubicles filled with reporters hunched over laptops, the energy of breaking news cycles, it all felt familiar, despite being completely new. After months of living in suburban normalcy, Maya found herself energized by the sense of purpose that permeated the building. Maya Chen, a voice called from across the newsroom. Maya looked up to see a woman in her 40s approaching, carrying a cup of coffee and several manila folders. I'm Janet Morrison, International Bureau Chief. Welcome to the Post. Maya stood and shook Janet's hand, immediately noting the same alert awareness she had learned to associate with people who dealt with serious international issues. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Miss Morrison. I'm incredibly excited to be here. Please, call me Janet. And Maya, I have to tell you, your portfolio was the most impressive I've seen from a high school student. The depth of your understanding of international relations, combined with your writing ability, is remarkable. Maya felt a familiar pang of anxiety. I hope my background won't create any complications for the paper. I know my family situation is somewhat unusual. Janet led Maya to a small conference room where they could speak privately. Maya, let me be direct with you. We know about your mother's career, and we know about the incident at your school. That's not a liability, it's an asset. Maya blinked in surprise. An asset? Maya, let me be direct with you. We know about your mother's career, and we know about the incident at your school. That's not a liability, it's an asset. Maya, most journalists spend years trying to develop the kind of international perspective and security awareness that you grew up with. You understand how intelligence operations work. You've lived in countries experiencing political instability, and you've seen firsthand how government policies affect real families. That's invaluable experience for someone covering international affairs. Janet opened one of the folders and pulled out several newspaper clippings. These are stories written by journalists who had to learn about intelligence work from the outside. They're good reporters, but they lack the nuanced understanding that comes from personal experience. Maya examined the clippings, noting the gaps in understanding that were obvious to her, but might not be apparent to readers without her background. Your assignment this summer, Janet continued, is to write a series about the human side of intelligence work. We want stories about families, about the personal costs of classified careers, about the children who grow up in this world without fully understanding it. Maya felt a flutter of excitement mixed with nervousness. That sounds incredible. But Janet, won't this kind of reporting potentially expose people who need to maintain their cover? That's exactly why you're the right person for this assignment, Janet replied. You understand operational security instinctively. You know how to tell meaningful stories while protecting sensitive information. Most journalists would need months of training to develop that awareness.
Janet handed Maya a list of potential interview subjects. We've been in contact with several former intelligence operatives who are willing to share their stories, as well as adult children of CIA and NSA employees who can speak about their experiences growing up in intelligence families. Maya scanned the list, recognizing some names from her mother's casual mentions of former colleagues. This is fascinating. I had no idea there were so many people willing to talk about these experiences. Maya, there's a growing recognition in the intelligence community that the human costs of classified work deserve public attention. The divorces, the family relocations, the children who struggle with identity issues because they can't discuss their family life with friends, these stories need to be told. And the agencies are okay with this kind of reporting? Janet smiled. Let's just say that certain people in the intelligence community believe that public understanding of their work and sacrifices might lead to better support for their personnel. Your mother's handler, for instance, has been very supportive of this project. Maya's eyes widened. My mother's handler talked to you about this? Deputy Director Hawkins has been instrumental in arranging interviews and ensuring that our reporting doesn't compromise any ongoing operations. She believes that your unique perspective could help bridge the gap between the intelligence community and the public. Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with intimidation. The CIA deputy director who had resolved her school crisis was now supporting her journalism career. The responsibility felt enormous. Janet, what if I mess this up? What if I accidentally include information that compromises security or puts people in danger? Janet's expression grew serious. Maya, that's a legitimate concern for any journalist covering national security issues. But here's the thing. Your instinctive understanding of operational security is actually better than many experienced reporters. You've been living with these considerations your entire life. Plus, every story will be reviewed by security experts before publication. We're not just throwing you into the deep end without support. Maya nodded, feeling some of her anxiety ease. When do I start? Your first interview is tomorrow morning with a retired CIA analyst whose daughter is now a college student. She's willing to discuss how her career affected her family life and her daughter's development. Maya spent the rest of the afternoon being introduced to other reporters, learning about the paper's systems and procedures, and receiving her press credentials. As she walked through the newsroom, she couldn't help but think about how different this environment was from the world her mother had inhabited. Here, the goal was transparency and public accountability. Information was meant to be shared, not protected. That evening, Maya called her mother to share the details of her first day. Mom, I think I'm going to love this work, but I'm also terrified that I'll make a mistake that could hurt someone. Maya, Dr. Chen replied, the fact that you're worried about that shows you have the right instincts for this kind of reporting. Your father would be so proud to see you using everything you learned from our world to help people understand it better. Do you think he would approve of what I'm doing? Sweetheart, your father believed that democracy depends on an informed public. He would absolutely support your work to help people understand the human side of intelligence operations. Maya smiled, feeling a connection to the father she barely remembered, but whose values had shaped her entire life. Tomorrow, she would begin telling the stories of families like hers, stories that deserve to be heard, understood, and honored.
1 year later, Maya Chen stood at the podium of Georgetown University's Foreign Service School, holding a printed copy of her award-winning article series, Shadows and Sacrifice, Growing Up in America's Intelligence Families. The piece had won the prestigious Polk Award for Investigative Journalism, remarkable recognition for someone who was technically still a college freshman. The auditorium was packed with students, faculty, intelligence professionals, and family members of operatives, people whose stories Maya had helped bring to light through her reporting. In the front row sat her mother, Dr. Sarah Chen, beaming with pride beside Deputy Director Patricia Hawkins and Agent Rodriguez, who had both become unexpected mentors in Maya's journalism career. When I was 17 years old,
Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through the microphone. I wrote a creative writing assignment that accidentally contained classified information. That essay nearly destroyed my family's carefully maintained cover and could have compromised active intelligence operations. The audience listened intently as Maya recounted the story that had brought them all together. The school suspension, the FBI investigation, the revelation of her mother's true career, and the chain of events that had led to this moment. What I learned from that experience, Maya continued, is that the line between protecting national security and serving the public interest isn't always clear. Sometimes the same information that must be kept secret to protect lives and operations is also the information that the public needs to understand the human costs of keeping them safe. Maya looked out at the audience, seeing faces that had become familiar over the past year. Former operatives who had shared their stories, children of intelligence personnel who had opened their hearts about growing up in classified families, and current analysts who worked to protect national security while maintaining their humanity. My article series profiled 15 families whose lives have been shaped by classified careers. I spoke with the wife of a CIA operative who raised 3 children alone while her husband spent months undercover in hostile countries. I interviewed the daughter of an NSA analyst who discovered her father's true career only when he was killed in the line of duty. I learned about the special challenges faced by military intelligence families, diplomatic security personnel, and counterterrorism specialists. The audience was completely silent, absorbing the weight of these stories that had previously remained hidden from public view. But I also learned something unexpected. I learned that secrecy, while necessary for security, sometimes prevents us from honoring the sacrifices made by intelligence families. The children who can't tell their friends why they move constantly, the spouses who live with constant worry but can't seek support from their communities, the operatives themselves who carry the weight of protecting others while being unable to share their burdens. Maya paused, making eye contact with her mother in the front row. My mother spent 20 years protecting American citizens from threats they never knew existed. She prevented terrorist attacks, disrupted foreign espionage operations, and gathered intelligence that helped keep our country safe. But because her work was classified, her sacrifices went unrecognized, and her service went unacknowledged. Dr. Chen wiped tears from her eyes as her daughter continued speaking. Through my reporting, I discovered that there are thousands of families like mine. Families who have given up normal lives, stable relationships, and comfortable routines in service to their country. Their stories deserve to be told, their sacrifices deserve to be honored, and their humanity deserves to be recognized. Maya looked down at her notes, then decided to speak from the heart for her conclusion. The essay that got me in trouble was titled Operation Nightfall. It was fiction, but it contained real tactical information I had absorbed from growing up in the intelligence world. Today, I want to announce my next project, a book called Operation Daylight, which will shine light on the hidden world of intelligence families and advocate for better support systems for personnel and their loved ones. The auditorium erupted in applause. Maya saw intelligence professionals, many of whom rarely showed emotion, wiping away tears and nodding in appreciation. I want to thank the Washington Post for giving an inexperienced teenager the opportunity to tell these important stories. I want to thank Georgetown University for providing me with the academic foundation to understand the complex intersection of journalism, national security, and public policy. Maya's voice grew more personal as she reached her final thoughts. Most importantly, I want to thank my mother, Dr. Sarah Chen, who spent her career protecting others while protecting me. Mom, your sacrifice gave me the perspective to tell these stories with authenticity and respect. Your courage gave me the strength to pursue difficult truths. And your love gave me the foundation to build a career based on service to others. Dr. Chen stood and began clapping, followed immediately by the entire audience in a sustained standing ovation. As the applause continued, Maya reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. A high school essay that seemed like a disaster had ultimately opened doors to a career she never could have imagined. Her accidental exposure of classified information had forced her family to confront truths they had been avoiding, but it had also freed her to use her unique background in service of greater transparency and understanding. After the ceremony, Maya was surrounded by audience members wanting to share their own stories and express gratitude for her work. Former operatives thanked her for helping their families feel less alone. Current intelligence personnel appreciated her advocacy for better support systems. Students expressed interest in careers that combine journalism with national security awareness. As the crowd began to thin, Maya found herself standing with her mother, Deputy Director Hawkins, and Agent Rodriguez. Maya, your reporting has had a genuine impact on how the intelligence community thinks about family support and public engagement. Several agencies are implementing new programs based on your recommendations. Agent Rodriguez nodded in agreement. Maya, you've managed to bridge two worlds that don't often understand each other, the classified world of intelligence operations and the transparent world of public journalism. That's no small achievement. Maya looked at these three people who had helped her shape her understanding of service, sacrifice, and the complex relationship between secrecy and democracy. I couldn't have done any of this without all of you, Maya said gratefully. You taught me that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that are hardest to tell. As Maya and her mother walked across Georgetown's campus toward their car, Dr. Chen put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. Maya, I want you to know something. When I started my career in intelligence, I thought success meant completing missions without anyone knowing I existed. But watching you honor the work we do while helping people understand it better, that feels like a much more meaningful kind of success. Maya smiled up at her mother. Mom, I think we both found ways to serve our country that fit who we really are. You protected people in secret. I'm protecting people by sharing their stories. And Maya, Dr. Chen added with a grin, I promise that from now on, all my stories will be cleared for public release before I share them with you. Maya laughed and remembered the creative writing assignment that had started this entire adventure. Mom, I think my next essay topic is going to be something completely safe. Maybe the history of suburban landscaping or the cultural significance of shopping malls. Dr. Chen chuckled. Knowing our family, you'd probably uncover an international conspiracy involving lawn care products. As they drove home together, Maya Chen reflected on how a seemingly disastrous high school incident had ultimately led her to discover her life's calling. She had learned that sometimes the most important stories emerge from the most unexpected places, and that the courage to tell difficult stories can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. Maya Chen was ready to continue shining light into the shadows, one story at a time. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.